Good evening, friends. Tonight, a new friend came to our house. This friend's name is Dong Xuanen. He's a young man from northeast China. He told us two stories. One of the stories is the one we're telling today. I gave it the name, The Northeast Leaping Lion. Next, well, tell the first story, provided by the three brothers. The story Dong Xuanen told, he said happened in June 2007. At that time, he said, I was in Qingyuan County, Fushan City, northeast China, in a school in what was then a county town. I was studying. The year this incident occurred, Dong Xuanen was 8 years old, in the 3rd grade of elementary school. So, he was a child. But the events that followed. Let's first talk about Dong Xuanen's school. Dong Xuanen was indeed disobedient as a child. To be honest, he was a naughty child. There were 2 other children from his village who also went to school. They were from the same village as him. So, meaning, from when Dong Xuanen started school, the 3 of them basically went to school and came back together. But these 3 brothers, their academic performance wasn't too good. But led by Dong Xuanen, their academic performance was extremely poor. So from a young age in elementary school, he wasn't liked by the teachers. Especially since Dong Xuanen as a child didn't know how to talk, didn't know how to appease teachers, so teachers often targeted Dong Xuanen. Moreover, it was the school environment in 2007, not like today. At that time, teachers often taught with personal emotions. I don't think I need to say more, you all should know. For example, if a teacher was in a bad mood, they might punish this child. Perhaps Dong Xuanen didn't make a big mistake, but the punishment was quite severe. If the teacher was in a good mood the next day, and Dong Xuanen actually misbehaved, they might let him off. He wasn't like teachers today who are so strict. So, next, this led to an incident. This incident, when Dong Xuanen was in the 3rd grade, one evening. Dong Xuanen made a mistake that night. He didn't do well on a test, I think. He scored very poorly. As a result, the teacher, plus it seems in life, something unhappy happened. That afternoon after school, around 5 p.m., rushed Dong Xuanen. At that time, Dong Xuanen was called to the office and told, Dong Xuanen, I am telling you, you alone are dragging down the entire class grades. Because of you, the whole class can't get into the top 3 in the grade. Our class is disgraced because of you. It's all because of you. I am not going home today, and you're not going home either. I'll stay with you. I'll stay with you until you finish this test paper. Dong Xuanen was stunned. Then, what else could he do? Seeing this, he said, okay, fine. And he even called his dad. He told his dad, Dad, I can't go back today. The teacher kept me at school to do shuttlecock. Dong Xuanen's dad wasn't exactly the type of parent who focused too much on studies. After he finished speaking, he didn't say much, just said, listen to your teacher. So Dong Xuanen stayed at school to revise the test paper. But then, something exaggerated happened. The teacher kept Dong Xuanen at school, all the way until 2 a.m. Of course, both sides had issues. The teacher was a bit too much. Dong Xuanen's grades were indeed not good. That night, they worked on this test paper together, tutoring him, until exactly 2 a.m. After 2 a.m., honestly, the responsible teacher should have sent the child home, because you lost your temper today, right? And you kept him until past 2 a.m. But this teacher wasn't very responsible. He didn't care. Dong Xuanen was quite angry then. At past 2 a.m., he asked Dong Xuanen, can you ride back to the village yourself? Can you make it? What could Dong Xuanen say? Teacher, I can make it. And so it happened. In the middle of the night, at 2 a.m., the teacher and Dong Xuanen left the school. After leaving, the teacher rode home, and Dong Xuanen rode back to the village alone. But don't forget, this was a 3rd grader. He had never come home this late before. This was the first time. But a brave newborn calf fears no tiger. Dong Chuanan said, I didn't feel that scared of the dark. This was only when I was riding from town towards home. Seriously, when I entered the road into our village, I got scared. Because it was truly a dark and windy night. I couldn't see my hand in front of my face. The wind was whistling, although it wasn't winter. But in northeast China, when it gets damp and a bit cold, approaching autumn, the wind is quite biting. And at night, you can't see anything. Leaves rustling in the woods. I don't know what it is. Like something is moving through the trees. So Dong Chuanan got more and more nervous as he rode. The more he rode, the more nervous he got. And then, as he was riding, he said he didn't know where he was going. At that time, I felt like I was heading towards my home. But after a short while, I didn't recognize the surroundings or the road. After about another 15 minutes of riding, Dong Chuanan realized something was wrong. Hey, why is this hill not familiar? This isn't that patch of wild graves next to our village. How did I ride from our village? From the east entrance this way? They never let us pass this way from the east entrance since we were kids. This is bad. This land is full of buried dead people. What should I do then? Plus, it was late at night then, so Dong Chuanan was a little panicked at this moment. He was riding the bike desperately on the dirt road, heading towards the village. But luckily, as he was riding, Dong Chuanan saw a light from afar. And he recognized the light. It was houses from his village. Dong Chuanan felt much better immediately. He sped up in that direction. But as he was desperately pedaling, suddenly, Dong Chuanan heard a sound of digging soil from about 20 meters ahead. The sound of digging soil. Not only was there a rustling sound of digging, but also extremely terrifying gasping sounds. It sounded something like this. As soon as he heard this sound, Dong Chuanan immediately stopped pedaling. He didn't dare to ride forward. He applied the brakes, one leg on the ground. What is this? But then, in the direction he was looking, which happened to be towards his village, meaning there were some lights on. The light from the village illuminated the area so he could see a bit clearer. So Dong Chuanan kept staring in that direction. But after staring for about 10 seconds, slowly, something crawled out of the soil, a thing. Dong Chuanan said this thing crawled out of the dirt. I watched it like this. It slowly dug through the dirt, crawling out bit by bit. After it crawled out, it was first in a lying position, then slowly, it squatted down. It squatted there, shivering all over. I don't know what it was doing. After squatting for about 7 or 8 seconds, it gradually stood up. And when it stood up, oh my God, my goodness. I saw this person was at least 1.8 meters tall, and it stood up straight first. I don't know which direction it was looking. I couldn't see clearly, but that's not all. Not long after, its 2 arms stretched out. Arms stretched out. They were much longer than normal people's arms. It then hopped around the dirt it had crawled out of. Hopped. After hopping for a bit, it started hopping towards my direction. I was terrified, so I immediately turned and rode my bike in another direction. But I think I made a mistake. Because I only rode a few meters, I looked back. It was hopping towards our village again. It was too dark then. If I rode in the opposite direction, I was afraid I'd get lost again. I wouldn't be able to get home at all, so I thought, it's quite far from the main road. Should I turn back and rush past it? Result: scared, Dong Chuanan slammed on the brakes. Then he turned his head and looked for a long time. Indeed, that thing was hopping forward with its arms. It was hopping further and further. It was at least 20 meters from the dirt road. So Dong Chuan was thinking at this moment, let's go. Should I go? He immediately turned the car around. He started speeding towards the village. But luckily, that thing didn't hit him. It was as if it didn't even see him pass by, towards their village. That thing just jumped away, and Dong Chuan sped into the village. He arrived at the village. First, he had to cross a river. There was a small bridge over the river. On the bridge, Dong Chuan looked to the left for a long time. That thing gradually disappeared into a patch of woods around their village. And then further back, where did it go? Dong Chuan didn't know. At that time, he quickly rode his bike home. After arriving home, he locked the door. His parents were already asleep. He banged on the door for a long time. Only then did they open it. When his dad saw him, "Why are you back so late? Is your teacher crazy? Why did they keep you at school so late? What's wrong with you? You're all sweaty." When Dong Chuan saw his dad, he immediately felt better. He kicked his bike to the side and grabbed his dad's clothes. "I saw a ghost. I was so scared." But his dad was also a rough person. Without saying a word, he grabbed him and pulled Dong Chuan inside. After going inside, he didn't ask him, "What exactly did you see?" Instead, he told him, "What kind of teacher is this? When I go to your school, they kept the child at school until 2 a.m. Huh?" When his dad yelled like that, Dong Chuan felt very warm inside, because his dad didn't scold him that day. Instead, he scolded his teacher. Dong Chuan thought, "I am not in the mood for this anymore, so I didn't mention seeing the jumping creature to my dad again." But until the next day, there was no school. It was a day off. Then at lunchtime, Dong Chuan finally told his dad about it. When his dad heard it, he was eating. Then he suddenly put down his chopsticks. "Huh, you really saw it?" Dong Chuan nodded. "I really saw it. Really, Dad, I really saw it." Then his dad thought for a long time. He told Chuan, "These things, one of these days, you should talk to your grandpa about it. When your grandpa was young, someone saw it. Because when I was young, I remember your grandpa told me about it. But I didn't see anything. You should tell your grandpa about it sometime. Maybe not. Did you really see a zombie?" That spoiled kid heard it. What would a kid know? Right? We had definitely go to his grandpa. So he asked about it. His grandpa told him. Oh my. There was a story like that in our village when we were kids. Because now it's proven this thing is still alive. This thing really exists. Well, that was bad. Dong Chuan wasn't scared by this at first, but he was pretty scared. But with his grandpa saying that, Dong Chuan really took it to heart. After returning home that noon, he was upset all afternoon. Then that night, Dong Chuan got a fever. He said, "I had a fever for 3 to 5 days. At that time, people in our village said he was just scared. But those 3 to 5 days were extremely painful. Because I wasn't just feverish, I also had nosebleeds. Like crazy. The nosebleeds lasted for a full 3 days. I felt like I was going anemic." Tonight, we have a listener named Aunt Orange visiting. This listener provided us with an incident that happened around her middle school years. This incident has bothered Aunt Orange for many years. She said, "Kai Shen, I am 30 years old now. This happened so many years ago, but to this day, I still don't understand. Was it something supernatural I encountered, or did I meet a bad person in real life?" Aunt Orange is from Qinghai. When she was in middle school, or rather, before her final year of high school, due to her clothing and appearance, 90% of people who saw her couldn't tell she was a girl. Many students at school thought she was a boy. For 3 years, many students who weren't even in the same class, I thought Aunt Orange was a male classmate. Of course, not in the same class. They all thought Aunt Orange was a male student. However, she says, by her second year of high school, she realized it wouldn't work. She always dressed like a boy. She was comfortable, but when she went to the girls' restroom, some of the new first-year students didn't recognize her. They thought a hooligan had entered. So, in her 3rd year of high school, Aunt Orange made a drastic change. She switched from men's to women's clothing. But that's not important. This is just to introduce her situation to you. The important thing is the story. That happened when Aunt Orange was in her 2nd year of middle school. In her 2nd year, Aunt Orange was like a tomboy. She'd rush home from school. One day, around 5 p.m., she left school. After leaving school, Aunt Orange insisted on going to a place that was quite far from her school to buy delicious fried skewers. This fried skewer was near their old house, and something he grew up eating. But since the family moved, he hadn't eaten it much. So from time to time, Aunt Chenzi would often after school go to the old house to buy fried skewers. But honestly, she shouldn't have gone that night because it was snowing and a bit late. Plus, it was winter in Qinghai, and it snowed after 5 p.m. It was already getting dark. But Aunt Chenzi was really craving it. So around 5:30 p.m., maybe close to 6 p.m., she left school. By the time she got to the fried skewer place, it was already 6:40 p.m. So, Aunt Chenzi bought the fried skewers in the dark. After buying them, she was in a hurry to get home quickly. Otherwise, her parents would worry, right? Where else would this child be? So, after Aunt Chenzi bought a bag of fried skewers, she didn't really eat any. She rode her bike straight home. The problem is, as she rode out, it was only about a 10-minute ride. While riding, Aunt Chenzi heard someone calling her from behind. At that time, Aunt Chenzi was riding close to the side of the road. When she passed by the side, she did see an old lady standing there. The old lady looked about 70 or 80 years old, standing still. She did look at the old lady more closely then, but she didn't expect the old lady to know her real name. After riding a few steps, the old lady called out from behind. Zhao Fang, Zhao Fang. When the old lady called out, Aunt Chenzi's heart sank. Who is that? Who is it? How do they know me? She immediately turned around, stopped her bike. Her leg even dangled down. She turned back to look at the old lady. Excuse me, who are you? Because Aunt Chenzi used to live near here. Having grown up here and only moved away a couple of years ago, it wasn't entirely strange that someone recognized her. But after asking, the old lady didn't seem to recognize her either. Aunt Chenzi couldn't recall who she was, no matter how hard she tried. Moreover, the old lady was quite far away at the time. She didn't answer who she was, but kept beckoning her. She was signaling for Aunt Chenzi to come closer. Aunt Chenzi felt a bit uneasy then, but on closer inspection, the old lady didn't seem hostile. She didn't look like a bad person. Besides, even if she were a bad person, what could an old lady do? Coupled with her own curiosity. As a result, Aunt Chenzi actually propped her bike up there and walked to the side of the road. When she reached the roadside, she was still wary of the old lady. Keeping her distance, she continued to ask, "Hey, Grandma, who are you? How do you know me?" But after asking, the old woman still didn't answer him. Instead, she told Aunt Chenzi that, "Was your mother's name Short Hair?" Aunt Chenzi heard this and said, "Oh, you're my former neighbor, right? You knew my mother?" But the old woman still didn't answer directly and told Aunt Chenzi again that, "Your mother fell down in the small path ahead, to the left. There are a lot of people here, and they're all watching her. It looks like she fell pretty badly. Go take a look." When Aunt Chenzi heard this, she panicked immediately. Yes, Yes, okay, I know. She immediately got on her bike and headed towards the old woman, who was pointing to a small path. Aunt Chengzi wondered at the time, this must be a neighbor. Why is my mom here? Maybe she ran into someone, and they happened to meet me. She felt grateful to the old woman. However, according to the location the old woman indicated, she turned into the small path beside it. Aunt Chengzi discovered that this small path was visible all the way to the end. There was no one there. But if she heard someone was in trouble, Aunt Chengzi might have just glanced and left. She would have left quickly, but the old woman said it was her own mother. So even though Aunt Chengzi could see to the end of the path and saw no one, she still rode her bike in. Once inside, she looked around, searching. The small path was very straight, with no side roads on either side. The entire path was clean and empty. You couldn't even find a single person. Aunt Chengzi was confused. Where is anyone? Did an ambulance take her away? Is something really wrong with my mom? As she was thinking this, flustered, she suddenly heard an old man behind her calling her. Hey, child. Xiao Feng, child. Oh, the old man's voice was very weak. Aunt Chengzi was startled. Who is it? Where? She turned around and saw, about 15 body lengths behind her, standing by a small, low flower bed, was an old man. The old man had white hair. He looked about 70 or 80 years old, but his posture was still quite strong. However, he was very short, only about 1.6 meters tall. He was dressed cleanly, in dark clothing. He stood by the flower bed, peacefully waving at Aunt Chengzi. Aunt Chengzi saw this. Who is this? How does he know me? She stopped her bike again and turned back to call out to the old man from a distance.